Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be.
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have,
you'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want a man's coolant.
and he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light."
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
Welcome to the final episode of Auto Off Topic in 2024. How's it going, Brad?
Always teasing them with "We're going away forever." It's going good, Andrew. How's it going with you?
Well, I think we gotta breed that scarcity, and maybe more people will listen.
They'd listen in the first place to know we're breeding scarcity.
That's true.
We're making
This
like our
podcast
own little
should be-
hype beast supreme drops here. Yeah, sure.
This podcast should be expensive and cherished.
Yeah. Discord callback.
Yeah, go join the Discord. It's fun. But anyway,
So this is going to be
we're
the
closing
typical end of year episode. I think we're going to talk about resolutions and what we said we'd do last year, and we did or didn't do this year, and just kind of a quick recap of the year. And I think we discuss kind of our annual tradition now is Project Car State of the Union.
I think we were doing that in January because that's usually when the State of the Union, the real one, is. So I think we did Project Car resolutions at the end of the year.
Okay,
So-
we'll push it forward then.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, you were wrong because I did listen to last year's episode.
Did we?
To see what
we did
we
early.
may have missed the mark on as far as our resolutions from last year, and we did Project Car State of the Union. Kind of,
Oh,
we
okay.
discussed it, but I think we actually did another one, like actually like breaking down each car in January. So maybe you're right. Maybe
Yeah.
you're right. But we'll let it slide. Either
Yeah.
way. So we'll skip that.
We've
for
only
now.
done like 360 something episodes, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah, you'd think we'd be better at this by now. In general, just life in general, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. This is we started in November of 16 and now we're closing out December of 24. So
Oh my god.
yeah. I did just finally, because I didn't think we were ever going to use it again, because whenever you do visit, we never have time to podcast in person, or it's just easier just to do it right into the computer now. I put away all the old, it's not really old, but I put away all the podcast equipment that was set up
Right.
in the basement studio. It's all put away. I wanted that space back.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
My sim seat's sitting over there now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
yeah, it's unfortunate. We had the plans of grandeur to do it. And honestly, we could take it out when I was there if we had time. If we had time to do a podcast, we had time to take it out. So it's not the end of the world.
yeah, just easier to do it right in this machine.
It is.
This thing called a computer.
Well, that's how much different our podcasts in 2024 than they were in 2016. In 2016, not everybody and their mother had a podcast. And
Nope.
you had to have equipment to do it. You couldn't just do it into a computer because the sound quality wasn't the same. We had a mixing board and we had microphones and you had the whole thing set up down there.
There were very few remote podcasts. And it's funny because we went remote in 2019. So all pre-pandemic. So I like to think we were decent at it. And now everybody's got podcasts. And my main gripe, I don't want to get griping too much on podcasts, is that there's too many celebrity podcasts. This felt like it started out as a very indie movement. And then the big people came in and blasted everybody out. So
Well, when actual radio programs started calling their recorded version of the radio program that was actually on the radio, but then also released on the line a quote unquote podcast, I think that's where it kind of Again, just like you said, I don't want to be too hipster about it here, but yeah, it should be for the common person to have their thing. But that's also not positive all the time because some people have some really wild takes and they shouldn't have a podcast anyway.
No, I guess they do. But
Yeah.
anyway, I guess you've got some project car updates. You've been trucking along, literally, right?
I'm groaning. I can't answer the question now because I'm groaning for your trucking along comment. Yeah, I have been moving right along or trucking right along. I think now I need a 70s keep on trucking sticker with the guy walking with the big boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, the truck is, I don't want to call it done because it's not done. It's a project car, will always be a project car, but it's what I would call streetable. So I've driven it a few miles around the neighborhood. It's not technically registered or insured properly yet, so I haven't gone outside my continuous block here. But I've done enough laps to know where I'm at. I've let it run for 45 minutes or so, no overheating. It stops, it turns, the lights work, it drives in a straight line, it goes in reverse, the backup lights work, the suspension bounces. I won't say that it dampens, but it bounces. Everything moves the way it should. Ball joints are tight, wheel bearings are tight, new tires are on. I don't know, where was I last week when we talked? We didn't talk. Did I have tires yet? Feel like maybe
you just put the tires on. You were talking about how you ended up with or maybe we didn't get there yet. About the carb, because what happened? We are recording this between weeks because of the holidays
normally
again.
I can just be like, what did I do last weekend? Because that's usually the call out. So if you tell me, Andrew, what was the last day we recorded? It would have been 2 Wednesdays ago.
Yeah, I believe so.
So that would have been. Let's see. Today's the 22nd. So last Wednesday would have been the 18th. We did not record. So the last one we recorded was on the 11th. So I did not have tires yet because I got tires on the 14th.
All right. So sounds like you got tires now.
Sounds like I got tires now. So I got tires. I was just going to throw some cheap tires from the local Lanterra on there just to make it roll. But I was like, you know what? By the time I spend, $25 to $40 a tire and have them mounted and put them on, and it's a pain in the butt, I might as well I'm not going to give up on this truck. I'm going to make it work. I might as well buy real tires for it. So I went on the internet and I was looking for tires, and I wanted to go oversized, not like ridiculous because it's a 2.6 powered truck. So it doesn't make a ton of power. It's like, 110, 120 horsepower when it was new. So I can't use 33s or something on there. Also, they won't work. But I went...
Oh, so what's the biggest tire you can get without a lift?
Well, I can tell you right now, it's about a 29 and change. Which actually, this truck is so small, they look big. So
they do look big.
The factory tire size, I think, is 215/70/15. And I found a set of Goodyear Wrangler Trail Runner ATs. So they're not a highway tire, but not an off-road tire. They're a good, in-between all-terrain tire. They're not super noisy on the highway, but they have a nice aggressive look to them. And the most important part is, in the size I was looking for, I was able to find them for $104 a piece, which at the end of the day, for a giant set of, I shouldn't say giant, but a large set of truck tires, that's a lot of rubber, they are fairly affordable. So I picked them up in 235/75/15. So the overall height of the tire is about 2 inches larger than the factory tire is supposed to be. And I thought the factory tires looked small, and they made the truck not look like a four-wheel drive. It looked like a two-wheel drive. But I think it was a two-part factor. It was, one, they were a smaller tire size, and B, they were bald as can be, so they had no treads. So they're probably even more smaller, or smaller than they should have been. So putting these tires on here now, they measure out a little over 29 inches overall height. They said it won't look out of place with a little bit of a lift. That's the factory tire size for a Montero. So the Montero has a slightly larger tire than the Mighty Max does.
I don't know what your Montero. I had 29s on the 89.
Yeah, that's the fact. The factory
I-
size is 29. This 235, 75, 15 is the factory tire size for a first gen Montero.
And then I had I've got 31s on the 99. But
Right.
they're actually written out as 31s.
Yeah, because they become truck tires. It's a different measurement system. But no, these tires are really nice looking. They have a good square kind of edge on them, so they don't look modern at all. They look like they would have been on the truck in the 80s. So it really gives that proper, like, Marty McFly Toyota pickup style look to it,
Mhm.
which is kind of what I was going for. So those are on the truck. With those going on the truck, I also had the truck running. I think we talked about it running and we talked about it smoking. So
Yeah.
I fought with that for like a week. And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I was having a hard time fixing things. And I also was having a problem where I couldn't keep the idle down. I'd get it to run and I'd finally get the idle to like, 8 or 900. And then it would just go up. And next thing it was idling at like 25, 2600. And then once it got good and warm, I couldn't even get the idle to come down. I could turn the screw, 720 degrees in either direction, both the idle screw and the mixture screw, and nothing would change. It would just say idling
Strange.
way too high. So in my automotive knowledge, past carburetor stuff, I know that a high idle is usually a sign of a vacuum leak. So I went through all the vacuum stuff, checked every vacuum line. There aren't that many on the truck anymore now that I've removed the stock carb. But I wanted to make sure I didn't have some giant open vacuum source somewhere that I had pulled off the stock carb. So I bought some vacuum caps. I capped everything off I could find. Put new vacuum caps on a couple of fittings on the carburetor. And I just couldn't make it work. And it was smoking like crazy. It wasn't coolant smoke. It wasn't oil smoke. It just smelled like hot car. Like it was just an odd smoke smell. So
Yeah.
I kept figuring it out. Finally, I was like, you know what? I need to look into this carb. Because if you remember, I bought the carb used. So I was like, let's look into this carb. I bought it at a junkyard. Maybe it's something with this is not working right. And then I did a little more digging, and I had thought I had bought a genuine Weber from the junkyard, but it turned out that it was one of those Chinese knockoff Webers. It had a bunch of
you got a
Weber.
Weber.
Weber, yeah. It had a bunch of Weber stickers on it, and what I learned is that the factory Weber carbs don't have Weber stickers on them. They have stamped Weber into the casing itself. And the other big difference with the casing is that the Weber, the Chinese Weber, is a much softer, like pot metal, and the correct cast is a much stronger metal. And what happens on these is when the throttle shaft comes in to the side of the carb to operate the butterflies, over time, that hole where it goes in ovals out. So as that hole ovals out, it loses its seal and it becomes a vacuum leak. So armed with that knowledge, I went back outside and I sprayed a little bit of brake clean around the base of the carburetor. And when I got to that throttle shaft, the idle would go up even further when it was right there. So I was like,
there
okay,
we go.
well, there we go. That's definitely a leak. So I called our friend Mike over at Italian Design and Racing because he is a Weber distributor. And I asked him if he can get me a 3236 set up for the truck. And he said, let me look into it. And he did. And he gave me a price. And he ordered it. And he delivered it to me yesterday at 4 till 4. And I got home after a day of doing car stuff, threw that in the truck, put the lines back on, primed it with a little bit of fuel, and the truck fired right up. It immediately settled into like 850 to 900 RPM idle and completely stopped smoking.
Oh, weird.
And that was cold. And as it warmed up, it stayed exactly the same. Everything worked perfectly. Nothing ran strange. The truck made some lifter noise for a while, and once it had it running for a long period of time, the lifter noise went away. The thing is dead silent. It sounds like it was, a brand new truck 3 days ago. So,
Nice.
yeah, huge improvement over the other carb. It's just a good truck now. I have some things I have to figure out. My throttle cable, where the linkage is on the carburetor, it uses like it's a little pin that has a C-clip on the back, and unfortunately, it doesn't stay in place. So if you hit the gas too aggressively, the pin comes out, the C-clip comes off, and you lose your throttle cable. Obviously, all the springs default it back to idle, so it's not like it sticks wide open. But I've temporarily kind of rerouted that with some cable management stuff. But I have to figure out a better solution for that before it becomes, an actual daily. So that's I got to look into some Weber parts catalogs and see what pieces they have to fit the cable on to pull it in the correct direction. But overall, that I don't think is a huge deal because it runs. And like I said, I've driven it around the block a bunch. I've cleaned it, power washed it. I was actually, just before we started recording, I was just kind of doing a compound and buff on it to clean it up the best I could. And I mean, this thing's awesome, Andrew. This truck is great. It was a little touchy there with the smoking. I was afraid it was going to be something serious, maybe a head gasket, but didn't have signs of a head gasket. And then I was like, well, maybe it's going to be stem seals, which is common in old Mitsubishis, but it wasn't smelling like oil, so I didn't know. And it wasn't that. So no valve stem seals, no head gasket. This thing just runs out like a new truck. So I think I'm pretty much done messing with it mechanically. And now I just got to make it nice and do like the other mechanical things they'll need. Like it does need shocks and a couple other minor things, but I actually got to get with Josh at Adventure Driven Design because we're going to do a very minor lift on the truck. And I'll probably, when I buy the shocks, we'll do all that together. So, but yeah, this thing's cool. I'm super happy with it. I did get a grill for it. I'm sure people that saw the pictures originally saw I had no grill. I do need to do a little bit of body work to make it fit because where it was bumped on that left fender, the whole headlight bucket assembly is over just like a millimeter or two. It's not a big deal. Any frame damage. It's all the soft sheet metal on the radiator support. So it's not a big deal. I just got to get it lined back up to put the grill on. And then it'll be hopefully a daily driver. And then I can just continue to keep sorting it, get the air conditioning working, get the stereo working. Those are the only two things that don't work. The heat works, the blower motor works. I think I said, headlights and turn signals and everything there works. So it quickly became a running, driving truck again after sitting for more than 20 years in the high desert, which is wild, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool. It's very small. You don't realize like how small it is. It's basically the same chassis as like the short wheelbase Montero, right? But the roof and stuff of the Montero is so much taller. Yeah. And when you sit in this, I noticed I might try to figure out a way to adjust the seat, but like I'm actually looking through the shade band of the windshield. So
weird.
Yeah, so the seating position's kind of high. I wonder if I can lower that a little bit. I haven't dug too deep into that, but interior stuff is also on my list of to-dos. So, but yeah, it's basically cleaning and making it mine at this point. So I tried to register it. If I had gotten it registered yesterday, I would have chanced it this morning and driven it all the way to the Arizona Vintage Japanese Car Club event that was this morning. But I had a little bit of an issue getting plates only because Hagerty didn't approve the insurance right away. So I have to wait probably till tomorrow to get Hagerty's approval and then go get some tags for it. So, and as far as tags go, I have so here in Arizona, we do basically like a year of manufacture. If you have a plate from the correct era when the vehicle was made, we talked about this with your Volvo. You had a hard time with getting it done in Massachusetts, but we do have that here, and I have a really nice maroon brown, depending on who you ask, 70s 80s plate for it that used to be Naomi thinks it came off of her grandparents' old Lincoln. She recognizes the plate and it's in a stack of stuff that's been kind of kicking around, so I'll hopefully be able to use that plate and have the actual 1980 style license plate on there as well. So overall, I'm stoked. Couldn't be happier. This is the vehicular win that I needed. So
Yeah, it looks good. I just got to get those running boards off.
the driver's side is half off right now. That's what I was also doing that before I came in and recorded. So
Oh, nice.
I was
All
just
right.
struggling a little bit with a couple of captured nuts that are on the side of it that are just kind of spinning in their housings. So I'll have to get out there with some, after we record, some vice grips and make it work.
Nice.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for you to come out here next time and take it for a ride too, because I think you'll enjoy it. So
Yeah.
despite your hatred of the engine,
I do not like them.
sometime in a good
But,
one, you might change your mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much different from the Volvo engine, so it shouldn't knock it too much.
Shouldn't throw shade. And it pulls pretty good too with that Weber on there, so surprisingly peppy.
Yeah, all I did with the Volvo was drop off the parts I had. I was headed up that way anyways, so I swung by the machine shop instead of paying $40 to ship stuff, because I already paid to have them shipped to my house. But they I don't know where I would have gotten the wrist pin bushings. Like, I haven't seen those separately anywhere, so like machine shop's going to do those and the rods for me,
Okay.
because I brought them the rods, and one of them, like the number 2, was like real tight to push out, and that was the piston with the most damage, so it like got overheated or something. It was
Yeah,
kind of
probably.
weird.
Yeah.
So the new pistons had new wrist pins, but no bushings. So he called me up after I dropped them off. He's like, "Oh, do you want to bring the bushings?" I was like, "Well, I don't have those. Can you get them, please? Because I don't even know where to get them."
Yeah, and they can use like a universal thing they can measure out and make it work and get them right.
Yeah, they'll measure them and he'll match them to the wrist pins, and it's like, that's worth it.
Oh, 100%. That's a critical component to get wrong. So
Yeah. So yeah, that should be done. They're on vacation from Christmas to New Year's, as they should be, and so hopefully, next first couple weeks of the new year, I should be able to pick that engine up and start putting it together.
excellent. Excellent. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see that car done.
Yeah. So that, I guess, brings me into Project Car resolutions. And, you said what were ours from last year? You said you went back to the tape and listened to it.
I went back to the tape. I was trying to keep us on the honor system here, keep us honest. You didn't have a lot of resolutions this year. Your big resolutions were to install all of the fuel system components to run speed density in the Galant and to drive it more. And that was pretty much it. You also specifically said you were not going to buy a chrome bumper car because you had a lot of other stuff going on, unless the right one came along.
Oh, okay.
So you broke your
What do you
rule.
know?
Yeah, the right one came along. Yeah,
Well, it did. I got halfway on the Galant. I did the injectors and the fuel pressure regulator, and the car runs much better than it did before.
I will
it was
also
not
tell
running
you
well.
that was your resolution because it was also your resolution the year before, and the parts sat in your shelf for a year and you didn't get them done.
Yeah.
So you had to get them
Yeah.
done this year, you said. So, hey, good on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to finish with the other stuff for it, but I did drive it more, at least. I know I took it a lot to several Cars and Coffees, Marblehead Cruise-ins, which I'll talk about later. I drove it to Grid Life, so it did get a lot more use because it was running a lot better. I did discover that frozen or sticking brake caliper. That is something I should fix in 2025. I keep forgetting about it until
So
I go to
you
use the
also
car.
knew about that in 2023 because
I
you said
did?
that you don't drive the car enough because one of the brake calipers seems to be sticking.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you record this stuff. This is like sometimes I make notes for myself at work, and I'll go back a few months later. I'm like, oh, I did know that. I
Yeah.
wrote it down.
Yes. This is like that time when past Brad ordered parts and then future Brad forgot he ordered parts and then they showed up. I didn't have to buy them again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, you did know it needed brakes because you had that issue at that time, but it wasn't running, so you weren't worried about the brakes. And then you got it running, and then you were so stoked you got it running that you forgot it needed brakes, and then
Yeah,
you drove
I
into a
guess so.
wall, and the story's over. No.
No, it actually stops too well. That's the
Oh
problem.
yeah,
They're stuck.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to do some more. I was just busy last year. I just get into it. I want to go back and do some more track days. I didn't get to do any.
Well, you guys had a major non-automotive project that got finished this year that took a ton of your time. So,
I actually want to put the intercooler on the Talon. I've only had those parts for 5 to 10 years. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that in the last resolution show, but I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned at some point in the past. Probably back at the 2016, 27 year, maybe.
Probably. And then that's like kind of what I got. I mean, finished the Volvo, but I think I'm well on the way there.
Yep.
And I guess I don't need to buy any more project cars. I don't intend to. I kind of have what I want as far as cars go. I don't really have anything else I'm interested in.
There's always something you want, but the question is of need, space, and time and money is always the extra.
Yeah, but I'm not really wanted a Volvo.
True.
That's what drove me to buy it. That's why I really wanted it. And that's why we're looking so hard for one. And luckily I found a nice one. But other than that, I don't really have anything I'm hankering for. So I just want to get that thing going. I assume I'll enjoy it. I think so. It's got all the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, you've done minor stints driving cars like my Colt, and even though they're not fully sorted, you've enjoyed it. So,
yeah,
I figure it'd be like the Colt, but fully sorted, and it will be a good experience for you.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. And, do you have any?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say before we finish, just move on to me. The important thing to remember, which we've talked about with other people in the past too, is as long as your expectation isn't that it's going to run and drive and be a brand new car, and you go into it expecting that it's going to drive and run and feel like a car from 1968, then you'll be fine because that's what it's supposed to do.
And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
because I've never had a 60s car.
Yep.
If it it looks decent, the paint's not great, but it shined up.
It's presentable. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I can drive it and not worry about it. I'm not going to get upset if it gets rock chips because it's just like whatever. But if I can get a decent set of wheels for it, and because I don't love the steels, I think it would look nicer with a set of those ATS wheels, which are apparently on back order or something. So I keep an eye on those.
I mean, even I've seen them with the widened steelies. Those are cool looking too.
Yeah, maybe it needs something to make it look a little nicer in the wheel department. And as long as it looks cool and it sounds I'm hoping it will sound really good. I'll be happy with it.
I don't know how it couldn't sound good with twin carbs and a nice exhaust. It's gonna sound good.
Yeah, because it just like it's gonna be like 100 horsepower.
So 100 horsepower. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You want it to sound good without being overly loud, as a 100 horsepower 2-liter sports car from the 60s should sound. So
exactly.
Something along the lines of like my dad's TR3 or something is fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, how about your project car resolutions?
All right.
What are you accountable for?
So to review my project car resolutions from last year, and I promise you this is what I said. I'm not making it up because you didn't listen and I could say whatever I wanted. But my big resolutions last year, I failed on most of them. That being said, I have a really good excuse. So at the end of last year, I said the big thing this year I'm going to do is fix the Eclipse and drive the Eclipse and then reassess whether I'm going to still sell it or not after I fix it. I'm going to fix the 944, all of its little problems, and do a little bit of minor bodywork and paintwork on it and sell that. And I was going to sell the Mercor in the condition that it was in last year. So those were my big projects, my big resolutions. I also said that I was going to get at least 2 cars here from Massachusetts, and that I was going to... I don't think I mentioned the truck. So fast forward to this year, things that I did do. I did get 1 car here from Massachusetts, so 50% good there.
Yep.
I also did fix the Eclipse, and it runs and drives. Oh, I also said that 2 of the 3 non-running cars would be running this year. I also said that. So the Eclipse, good.
Yep.
944, not fixed, not sold. Mercor, not sold, and also no longer in a condition to sell. I need to do some more work to it. I did not have to do if I sold it last year. So I should have sold it last year.
Yeah.
That's okay. The truck was one of the non-running cars. It is gone. At the time, it was not the Ram 50 Mighty Max. It was the Toyota pickup, which is now gone. That actually has already had progress done on it, more so than when I had it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how's that person going?
I don't have a ton of updates yet. It's not his main project at the moment. He's got a Datsun Roadster he's finishing, but he's done stuff like go through brakes and wheel bearings and wheels and tires and made it like more feasible as a roller than it was. So there's some stuff that's gone on there. He's also sourced a good 22R for it.
Nice.
So I said that one of the other 2 cars would run this year. That's the Cressida or the Starion. The Starion does run. I did get work done on that mid-year this year. I'd say it was probably May or June. I got that car up and running.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
Yep. I didn't do much beyond that, so I don't know if that counts or not, but I made it run. Does that count?
I'll count it.
All right, good. So it runs. Well, I haven't started in a while. It might not run now, but it probably will run. I stopped working on that at the time for 2 reasons. One, I needed a radiator, and I couldn't find a radiator, and I was going back and forth on whether I wanted to buy a cheese ball aluminum radiator for it or find a good shop to recore the old radiator. So I eventually went with I'm going to use a new shop to record the old radiator. But I got distracted by the much bigger project that we can talk about later. So I didn't actually finish the car and make it usable. The Ram 50 was not on the list because it wasn't in my mind's eye of existing. So I didn't have anything about that. And that's the project that I finished the year with here, obviously, and made that run and drive. But what I have done, and I did this before re-listening to last year's resolution podcast, is whilst I was working on the Ram 50, I did move the other Cressida, the 80 Cressida, to the front driveway and put a cover over it, but put it next to the Ram. So when the Ram is done, that will be the next vehicle to run. So the initial plan was to make that a daily and sell the Eclipse. So I'll still see if that's a feasible project or not. So those were last year's resolutions. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But if people who listen all the time will know that I built a garage this year, and that took most of my time and most of my money. So,
however, you now have an actual really good space to work on stuff.
I do, but I'm currently still working in the front driveway, but that's okay. That's a whole other story for a whole other day, which I think may be changing come the second week of January. So I'll be able to start working in the back garage.
Yeah, because the thing is now you can actually start a project and leave it in pieces because inside a building.
Correct. But I don't want to do that and just have that be habit either. And I've already promised Naomi that the first project that we work on in that garage is going to be her Mustang. That'll be the first
Well, there you go.
the first full big like tear it down and make a mess project is going to be the Mustang. So, which we did a bunch of stuff this year too as well. We got a bunch of body work done under the hood. We have a brand spanking new engine sitting on a pallet in the front garage. There's a bunch of other parts we've gone through, a bunch of parts that I bought for the car. So there's a bunch of stuff that's done for that car too. So that is looking positive for this year. That was also one of our resolutions last year, was to get that thing done, but it also did not foresee the garage being built or Naomi having hip replacement surgery, and she doesn't want me to just to go out and work on the car. She wants to work on it with me, or she wants to do the work on the car basically. So I want her to have that because it's her car, and then I can be there to help and assist and work on it with her, or watch her work on it and while I'm working my own thing, or whatever the case may be. So there was some progress made on that front with that car. So all in all, it wasn't a bad year. Listening back to last year's episode, I had a tough year last year in the year of 23. 24 was a much better year. So
Yep.
employment was great. Work was good. The garage got built. Everything went pretty smoothly. And I got rid of that truck that was kind of a, albatross in the yard. And I got a good truck, which is really the truck I wanted in the first place. So 2024 was a banner year, but with the building of the garage and the getting of the Camaro here and the finding of the truck and getting it running, I think I'm kicking off 25. It sounds so weird to say, but I'm kicking off 25 in a pretty good place to get through this stuff. So I think my 25 resolutions that I'll put here in the actual atmosphere for people to hear and hold me to are this year. Come this episode next year, the Mercure will not be here.
All right.
The 944 will likely not be here. I don't want to
Okay.
promise that one because I kind of like that car, but also it'd be good to have.
That car's fine if it hangs around.
Yeah, well, I've made some moves already. So the former owner of the car, as everybody knows, is Bradley Brunell. And when I bought the car from him, one of the deals was I had to give him first right of refusal when it was for sale. He doesn't technically want it, but he would like the wheels because I think they'll also fit his 912 maybe. And I
You'll buy the
cool
whole
with
car.
that. I told him he could buy the whole car. No, I said if you have a good set of wheels that won't look terrible on the car and you're willing to trade them and they're the same size as what's on there, so I can just because I put brand new tires in that car recently. I said I don't want to have to buy new tires again. I said, so if you can come up with a set of 15-inch wheels that'll look good on the car and I'm okay with, I wouldn't be against swapping the wheels so you could have those wheels. So we went back and forth last week, and he has way more wheels than he should have for Porsches at his house. And I'm going to get a set of gold mesh polished lip BBS mesh wheels. So,
Okay.
which is a totally fine look for the car. I'm totally happy with that. But they're the same size and fitment as the Campagnolo knockoffs that are on there. So I'll be cool with that. And then I can still enjoy it. If I don't sell it, I'll be okay with those wheels. And if I do sell it, that is certainly a wheel that people desire. So it'll help the car sell anyway. So there's that. So that car may or may not be here next year. I don't want to make that part of the resolution. The Mercure will be gone. Period. End of story. The Eclipse, if the Cressida thing works out as it should, will probably be gone. I need to get rid of a couple of cars, so I don't want to sit here specifically and say what cars will be gone other than the Mercure, but I think a grand total of 3 cars will go away this year. So, not sure which 3 exactly, but 3 cars will go away this year. Just to kind of get myself back in line with a reasonable amount of vehicles. So, I think that will be a good move. The other reason for that is storage space, because even having that garage out back, having too many cars in front of it makes it difficult to get cars out. So I want to be able to pull cars in and out of the garage without having cars strewn about in the way in front of it. I don't mind if there's a car, in front of the garage. That's fine. I just don't think I want to have, the entire side yard still full of cars and not have access to the cars in the backyard. So I think that's one of the main things to do. So now the truck's here. It's a good, like, kind of daily vehicle. The Cressida, hopefully, this is the beige colored 80 Cressida we're talking about, obviously. Should be a good, dailyable style vehicle. So that's the big resolutions this year for those cars. And then as far as outside of project things, I just want to do more events. So keep going to car events and keep enjoy old car life, as they say. So enjoy the garage.
Yeah, exactly.
Build the garage up inside. Use the garage. Decorate the garage. Get all my tools back in the garage. That's all going to be kind of this year's big stuff. I'd love to make resolutions, but all kinds of other things like, I'll put a lift in. I'll put this lift down. I'll do this. I'll do that. But, it's December of 24. I don't know what the budget's going to be for things, and I don't want to overpromise and say I can do something I can't. So we shall see. But selling some cars will free some cash to do stuff like lifts. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I've come up with some off-topic podcast resolutions.
Okay.
For us. We need to have more guests on. We've talked about that. We should make some new merch. Probably t-shirts.
Yep.
And it'll likely, just as a note, probably be pre-order stuff, so we don't have to float a bunch of inventory, because I'm certainly not buying small shirts, because I know our audience, no offense, none of you people are smalls.
So I will say that
and I mean that very lovingly.
I will say that last year, listening to last year's episode, you also said we need to make t-shirts. And you also said that you're only going to get larges and extra larges because you know our audience. And then you said no offense. So you're nothing if not consistent.
Oh boy. Yeah, past me is on point.
So have we really done this podcast for 7 years, or we just repeat it every year? I don't really know anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Mush. I have a ton of hats right now to do something with. A ton of hats, because I had ordered some and some got sent that I wasn't thrilled with, and they replaced them with more. So now I have too many. But yeah, the new ones are nice. They're very good. I'll send you some pictures. Actually, they're very nice hats. Well,
you should sell them to the Discord, because that's
my thing, Andrew, is that I'm really bad at actually shipping things. Just ask anybody who's waited for anything from me, or ask Santiago right now, who's been waiting for a package for me for at least 6 months that I told him I would send him, and I keep forgetting. So, yep. I'm bad at that, but that's okay. All right.
Other resolution: make Brad better at shipping things.
Yeah. Sorry, Santiago. I have a box here with some stuff in it for you, but yeah,
I've got some videos I recorded in 23 that I hadn't edited yet that I should throw up, because they're just like simple stuff like doing brakes on the Crosstrek, and I did the struts on it. There's videos I meant to do and throw on our YouTube channel. I'd like to do some other videos, just simple stuff, quick things.
Well, the good news is if you hold those videos off for long enough, the Crosstrek becomes old enough that more of them are in the hands of people doing their own work, so people will watch them.
The rear brake video gets a ton of comments all the time, because it's probably one of the best ones out there, if I do say myself. So I have a front brake one I should really do, because a lot of the comments are like, do you have the front brake one? So I do. And I'm sure people would like to see how to do the Bilstein shocks on those. So, but anyway, yeah. So stuff stays the same, I guess, as we get older with this podcast.
The more time marches on, the more things stay the same. That's okay.
Yeah. That's what it's.
I genuinely want to, and maybe we can even say it out loud here right now for our Discord members. Hold us responsible for getting merch out there, because we keep saying it, we never actually do it. So,
what I really need to find out, and if somebody knows of like a good, I would be happy using a local t-shirt place, or if there's like a good a good on-demand place because the one time I tried it, it was awful and I hated them.
Yeah, it really spoiled our whole thing. That's part of the reason we don't have the merch is because that one time we did it, it came out terrible. So I know
But
that
I
the
would probably
boys
be
over
more
at
open.
the boys over at Revival right now are doing drop ship
Yeah.
T-shirts, and they're pretty happy with who they use. Maybe we can message Josh and find out.
Yeah, because I'd like to use, like, I don't want people to have junk.
No, that's the whole thing.
'cause-
Somebody's buying something to support us. We appreciate that. We
'Cause-
also don't want them to buy junk.
Because t-shirts now are $30 to $35. So that's a lot for a t-shirt. So I don't want to have a crummy t-shirt.
Yep.
But all right. Favorite events of 2024. Obviously, we did the Rolex 24 this year. That was fun. I was back to back in Florida. I went to the Daytona 500 for the first time with my family. That was awesome. We also watched the shootout because I was worried that the race was going to get rained out, and it did. But we went on the Monday, and it was still a great race. And then, like, it wasn't until May that I didn't, there's a bunch of like Cars and Coffees in there, but there was like whatever, those are average. It wasn't until May, and then we went to Indy 500. On the way there, I stopped and met with Bradley and went to one of his Valley Vibes, which are really cool if you're in Ohio on a Friday near Cleveland. Definitely go check out a Valley Vibes. And of course, the Indy 500. That was awesome. I'd never been to one. So that was pretty wild. I did the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500, the two big American races in the same year.
Yeah, nothing's bigger than that. So you've nailed it. And Daytona also this year. Like that was a hell of not 500, the 24. I mean, that was. I know it wasn't your first 24. You've been before, but it was. That hits one of my highlights of the year, and stinks that it's like the second week of the year. But it was a really good time.
Yeah. I enjoyed the NASCAR race at NHMS. I can't remember what the sponsor race was, but even though I missed the end of it because it got rained out, and I missed the part on the wet tires, I was really annoyed. But the cool thing is the race has been shifted to September, and it's now a playoff race. And typically the weather is better in September, so I'm hoping that's going to be a really good race. And I had already pre-bought tickets before they even announced it was a playoff race. So I got them cheap, which is cool.
Yeah, September in New Hampshire is a good time to be there.
Yeah. Grid Life was awesome. It was like the second year I've gone, the third Grid Life, but the second time I've gone, I'm definitely
it made your list on the 23 show too, for sure.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth it. And then a local show started up. These couple young guys started putting on this Marblehead Cruise in. So on Tuesday nights, and it was crazy. Like it worked out somehow this summer. We had a pretty dry summer, but every Tuesday was beautiful weather from June till October. And it was nice. Every Tuesday evening or once a month, they had a nice little show over by Devereaux Beach in Marblehead. And it was cool, like laid back, good mix of old cars, new cars. So I'm looking forward to them running that show again next year.
Yeah, it was definitely the kind of show, looking at pictures that you provided, that area lacked.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was cool to see it. So I'm glad that's kind of gone down. I mean, that show, that area always has had its cruise nights, its Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, like big event show. But this was it never had a good, laid back, low key, small gathering like this. So that's pretty good. I'm happy that's happening there now.
Mm-hmm. So those are my favorite events. How about you?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't include the 24-hour race at Daytona as one of my top events of the year, because it was amazing. I don't think it's the kind of thing I need to do every year because it's a lot of work.
Nope.
And it's a lot of money and it's a lot of effort, but I definitely am not going to not go again. I will definitely be there again. It was a really good time. It's the kind of event, though, that I want to do once in a while to keep it special. I don't want to go every year.
Exactly.
Every year and make it just like, oh, it's time to go to Daytona again. I think it would become a slog if I did that. If I lived in Daytona, it'd be a different story, but I don't. So I probably won't go this year But another couple of years from now, I'm 100% down to go again because that was a really, really, really good time. Locally here, the same stuff that every year is a highlight of my year was a highlight of my year again. All of the Kyushu Club shows, all of the Arizona Classic Japanese Car Club, South Mountain Roundup meets. The Williams Route 66 show is my favorite weekend of the year. I also went to the spring NASCAR race here at Phoenix. I didn't go to the playoff race here just because I didn't. I don't remember why I didn't. There's a lot going on then. I didn't make the playoff race, but that's okay. I didn't have a lot of destination shows this year. 2024 is the first year since the beginning of Radwood that I didn't go to a Radwood. So.
Oh, you didn't go to any Radwood?
Didn't go to any. I didn't even go to LA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's that's odd because that's been such a staple of my automotive events the past few years. But again, with the garage and medical things here in the house, it became tough to get to anything this year. And honestly, Radwood has changed a little bit. It's not the same grassroots event that it used to be. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's different, right? And half of the fun of Radwood was going there and being friends with those people that ran it and helping them out and volunteering with them and hanging out with them pre and post event. But since it's been taken over by, a corporate entity, which a company that we like, we both are customers of Hagerty and use their service and like their service. But, we don't know them personally. We're not going to work for them for free. We're not going to volunteer because they have a huge staff now. So it just became a very different experience the last few times I came. Honestly, I had a good time. And most people who weren't, I don't want to say we were involved because we weren't quote unquote Radwood, but we were friends with everybody. So we were more involved. And it just, it's a little bit different. And I'm a little less inclined to chase it all over the country now. I still did intend to go to the LA show. It just, with everything going on around here, I needed to be home basically. So I did not make even the LA show this year, but it's okay. I'll try to at least go to LA next year. We'll see what other shows do pop up next year and maybe I'll go to some, but I didn't go to Radwood this year. So my only real destination show was Williams, which is not even that much of a destination. It's only, a couple hour drive, 2.5 hours or so. So we managed to pull that off. But the biggest event that I took part in this year was my own event. And that would have been the Arizona Rising Sun Rally. So we were talking about that actually earlier today because we had one of those classic Japanese car South Mountain roundups this morning. And the two organizers who did it with me, three organizers who did it with me and myself were there. And we were talking about just, we haven't stopped talking since it ended about how good it was. But what that made me realize today, or in the past few days I've been thinking about it, is that just means I have to do it again next year.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking forward to planning it. So we'll see what happens, but that's going to happen. I think that I want to throw a couple of quick resolutions for the podcast in that I didn't get a chance to add a couple myself. But as far as actual podcast related things go, I agree with all of your resolutions for it. But I also want for both of us to run some Forenoon Cup events.
Oh yeah, I didn't do one this year.
You didn't do one?
We did. We sort of did one
2 years in a row now.
We did a light one in the spring. I forgot about that.
Okay.
Only me and two other people made it, but I found some roads in New Hampshire that I want to use. So
okay. Well, regardless, I'd like to have some Forenoon Cup East and West, which is nothing like the Arizona Rising Sun Rally, which was a huge production. No. This is just
much casual.
Yeah. A drive, maybe get some brunch or lunch or dinner and go home. No,
exactly.
No real organization. So I want to do one of those out here or a few of those out here, and you should do some back there. And maybe we can, going back to the merch conversation, we can make some small stickers or something for those that participate. So there's that. And that's my events, my resolutions. So what's next, Andrew?
I've got some auto off topic stats from this year. Maybe I thought people might be interested in, because we did year to date, so December 1st, 2022.
2022?
Yeah, December 1st, 2023 to November 30th, 2024. I was reading the wrong date. 11,000 downloads.
Okay.
So not bad.
That's one or two people, at least.
Yeah. No, unsurprisingly, United States the most, with 8,937 downloads. But I want to shout out Turkey here.
All right.
With 353 downloads.
All right. That sounds like some kind of spam.
Surprising. But also Singapore has 416. More than Canada, 401. Brazil's 159.
Wild.
Germany, 114. Yeah, it's quite a few countries on here. I don't know. Shout out to all you out there.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're actually here, actually listening, that's freaking amazing. Just hearing us talk about our crappy little Mitsubishis in America.
Yeah.
I don't think about people in other countries when I talk about things like a Mitsubishi Mighty Max. Like, they don't even have it as that. They have, a Mitsubishi Triton. So,
unsurprisingly, Apple Podcasts had the most downloads. Then we get just says Google Chrome, which is interesting.
Cult.
Spotify's up there. Get some interesting ones like Overcast, Podbean app. People really like it. iTunes, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts is 166, which is weird that Google Chrome is more.
Well, because Google Podcast is gone now.
Oh, right.
So it probably split them. So
yeah.
I personally use Pocket Cast. That's my go-to. So,
but we're on everything, so it works out. But top 10 most downloaded episodes. Let's see. We've got Let Old Cars Be Old.
Catchy title
from
that
this
makes
year.
Sense.
And Expensive Brat. That was also from this year. There's a lot of toggle switches.
That's from the Volvo.
Yep. Euphoric Driving Experience.
That must be about a Nissan
Daytona
Rogue.
Off Topic. Yeah. Daytona Off Topic. And then this was from the very end of last year, but it was one of the most downloaded episodes of 24. Lisa Katera.
Okay, yep.
New 302. Throwaway Cars. RMV Misery. And Daytona Part 2.
All right. Excellent.
So, pretty cool.
Very cool. It's neat to have statistics. I like it. So we got to remember next year, the numbers were 11,000 this year. So we got to at least double that by next year.
Yeah.
In our 8th year, Time for Growth.
Hopefully you just maintain it. Because,
well, listen, we are a niche of a niche of a niche, right? Like, we're an automotive podcast, which already puts us in a niche. But then we're an automotive podcast that doesn't talk about celebrities or doesn't talk with celebrities, which puts you in another niche. We're an automotive podcast that doesn't hardly ever mention Lamborghini or Ferrari or not 944 Porsches. And we don't talk about anything that's common. Like, we don't talk about G35s and Volkswagen Beetles and Miatas very often. Like, those aren't our mainstay of automotive culture. Our mainstay has always been Galant VR4s and Dodge Colts and Mitsubishi Mighty Maxes and Mercor XR4 TIs. Like, you're never going to get the following of a larger podcast that talks about mainstream stuff like new car reviews or Ferraris and Lamborghinis. So to those 11,000 downloads that we had. I appreciate every single one of them. So
Yeah. And again, everybody is welcome to come hang out in the Discord if you want, or
absolutely.
don't. Up to you.
Absolutely. And if it's 11,000 downloads, most people didn't join the Discord. But that's okay. We don't want that many people anyway. But,
All right. Yeah. So again, as always, go follow the podcast on Facebook if you want. It's Auto Off Topic Podcasts. We're on Instagram, Auto Off Topic. I'm on Instagram, Race and Anger, and Threads, Race and Anger. And Brad, where can they find you?
they can find me on Instagram, TSISS350, on Threads at the same. Don't forget to follow our Scale Autocast account. Also, shout out to 2024, Rest in Peace, Scale Autocast podcast. I think we've decided that that's too much, and we're not going to do that. So
Yeah.
we'll just continue to do Scale Autocast segments on Auto Off Topic at the end of Auto Off Topic. And if you don't like scale cars, you can shut it off then. But
Yeah, we've got some content coming up.
Yep.
Probably the next episode.
Yep. And I think
Because
that's-
2024, I got back into RC very hard.
Sorry.
So.
And I think that that's part of my resolution too, is to post more stuff to Scale Autocast. I have a ton of stuff to post, and just because I haven't been posting doesn't mean I haven't been purchasing diecasts. So
Yes, I've got a bunch I
Yep.
haven't gotten to, and I've got a bunch of RC stuff I've been doing.
yeah.
But
At full nerd level, I just decorated my 164 scale garage with Christmas lights, so I have to take pictures of that now. So
all right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So, happy holidays, everyone. Happy New Year. Stay safe over the holiday break. And
Use an
as
Uber.
always, yeah,
Don't drink and drive.
you definitely should.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
You're uninvited to listen
Cardano.
to.
Yeah. Yep. All right. As always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.